Dr. Nandita Shah is the founder of Sharan, an organization devoted to disease reversal through dietary and lifestyle changes and to building a culture of health both in India and the world. So, Dr. Nandita Shah is a doctor and homeopath by training. When she realized that most people had lifestyle diseases that medicines never cure, so true, she decided to find a better way. After healing naturally from an autoimmune disease herself, she now treats all her patients with this new method. She also conducts trainings for doctors and nutritionists so that this can spread far and wide. If we want to heal, we must not treat symptoms, but rather work at the level of the cause. If we remove the cause of any problem, it will disappear. She says, for Dr. Shah, the mind and body connection has always been an integral part of her work, just like as Manoj just shared. So, with her work in health and nutrition, she has seen many patients make changes that have enabled them to reach their highest potential, not just in their physical health, but in their emotional and spiritual well being. Dr. Nandita Shah is the author of the bestseller book, Reversing Diabetes in 21 Days, published by Penguin India. Dr. Nandita Shah received the prestigious Nari Shakti Award 2016 from the President himself of India in recognition of her work in the field of health and nutrition. She has also received an award from the Delhi Commission for Women this year for the same. So, with this, I would hand over to Dr. Nandita Shah for enlightening us on this subject, which is very close to our heart, that is the area of health. So, once again, thank you for joining us and a warm welcome to you, Dr. Nandita. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh, and thank you very much, Manoj Ji, for introducing me. And I know that you want me to also say a little bit about myself. So it's true, Rajesh, what you said, that I started out as a homeopath. And actually, my goal was like I wanted to reduce suffering. And that was the reason I chose homeopathy, because I thought that I wouldn't want to treat my patients with chemical medicines, and also because I consider the mind and body connection important, and I don't think that there's any other treatment that connects mind and body so much as homeopathy. So that's why I chose homeopathy. And as I went on, I grew up as a vegetarian. And at one point, I learned about the extreme cruelty of the dairy industry. And many people don't know anything about this. So I want to say a little bit about that here, that, nature or God expected us to eat and live the way we were designed to. That means milk is the food that every mammal produces for their young. And so, since we are neither calves nor are we infants, we shouldn't be consuming dairy, right? So, anyway, I found out that in order for us to consume dairy, a cow has to be artificially inseminated so that she'll become pregnant. And in order that we consume the milk, the calf doesn't. Now, if that calf happens to be a male, it will die of starvation, deprived of his mother's milk. And if it happens to be a female, she will be given a little bit of milk, but will be basically deprived of her mother's security, love, and everything else, and will be again made into a milk machine. And when I realized this, I recognized that it was true, because no mammal will produce milk without having a baby. And if the baby consumes the milk, there's no milk left for us. And so when I recognized this, I knew that I had to stop dairy because to me it was unethical. I became a doctor to reduce suffering, and I could not think of creating more suffering in the world. I was really happy to be a vegetarian all my life because I thought that I was not contributing to the suffering of animals. But when I understood that consuming dairy did contribute to suffering, I was shocked. And then, always the course of events in our lives leads us to our purpose in life. And so I got an autoimmune disease, as you know, which was Guillain-Barré. Guillain-Barré means it's an acute autoimmune disease where within a matter of days, I was from walking, I couldn't even turn in the bed, total body paralysis. And autoimmune means the body is creating antibodies against itself. In my case, against the myelin sheath of the nerves. And so my body is destroying my own cells. And as a doctor, I knew that if you go to hospital, they will give you steroids, immunoglobulins, etc. And I at that time, and I knew that this was not for me because this is not cure. So I had to really think deeply about what was the cause of my disease. And truly, the cause is even written in the medical text. The thing is that when we go to doctors, doctors are treating symptoms. And so nobody gets cured because doctors keep giving medicines to reduce symptoms, but never remove the cause. For example, if someone gets diabetes, they will go to the doctor and doctor will say, cut down sugar and cut down carbohydrates. And most people will do that. And nobody gets cured, right? And we all know that all diabetics do everything and then their medicines just spiral upwards and they never get well. So why are they not getting well? And why are billions of people going to doctors who will never cure them? And the reason we do it is because everybody's doing it. We really don't think, since we are young, we keep going to doctors. But if we think about it, the reason that we aren't getting better is because sugar is not the cause of diabetes. The cause of diabetes is insulin resistance. And if we put our finger on the cause of insulin resistance, diabetes will be gone. And truly, the name of my book came from the name of our program, which is a 21-day health retreat, where we do all the lab tests at the beginning and all the lab tests at the end. And during the retreat, we enjoy, various programs, just like SSY, various delicious buffet meals and so on. And people can see their medicines drop and have better results at the end of the program. So many people come to our program on 24 medicines and go out on maybe only 4 in just 21 days with better reports. Now, this doesn't mean that I'm a great doctor. This means that our body is capable of healing to an extent that we are ourselves not aware of. And, the body heals on the level of mind and body. For example, if we are stressed, we can get diabetes, hypertension. If we are repressed or angry or, unforgiving or whatever, we are holding back emotions, we can get cancers. And today I'm seeing so many people with autoimmune diseases and cancers and many other diseases that need not ever happen if we were to follow the laws of nature or God rather than follow what we've been taught in our society. And so that's how I help people heal. Now, I do want to say that, when we are stressed, we produce adrenaline. It's a stress hormone. We produce other hormones. And when animals are stressed, they too produce other hormones. They produce the same hormones as us. And therefore, if we consume the milk of a cow who's deprived of her baby, then she's stressed. And that stress comes back to us through the hormones in the dairy. And until we completely take out this medium of stress, we don't experience a lifting. But I'm sure that all of you have experienced it at some time, because many of us have done fasting, right? And when we do fasting, we know that you feel lighter, you feel more energetic, you feel less emotionally bound down. And why is that? Because we are not putting, and one of the reasons is because we're not putting hormones that aren't our own, energy that is not our own, because hormones translates into energy. So we're not putting energy which is not our own into our bodies, and therefore we are more in control of ourselves. So does this make sense to all of you?
Yes, yes, it doesn't make definitely.
Very
And
much.
Okay, and so
and Nandita, if you can just share on your autoimmune disease also, which it was, a little more detail on that, so it'll be nice. Yeah.
okay, actually, I don't have so much more to share on autoimmune disease.
Uh-huh.
Like, it's my whole story of, okay, I was totally paralyzed, and then I treated myself at home so that I had someone like two hospital assistants who came and who were turning me in the bed or feeding me or whatever bodily functions, because I was totally paralyzed. But um, I recovered also with the help of some homeopathic friends, but I stayed away from medicines in general. And I actually had to think about what was the cause of my disease.
Yeah, but you
And
just now
what
you just now said it is not much. It is a lot because anyone will hear it and get shocked. Like fully paralyzed means that's a big thing to come out of. In fact, fantastic that way. So it's a great inspiration. So if you can add on something like that, so it'll inspire more people to
So,
take.
when I got a little better, and it took me 6 months to get onto a wheelchair and walk with a walking stick and so on. And I also knew that, like, the kind of disease I had ends up in either death or recovery, because it was an acute autoimmune disease, and I just knew I had to stay away from the causes. But when I started getting better, I met a friend of mine. I had actually gone for a conference to the UK, and I met a friend of mine, and she said, let's sit down and think, why did you get this disease? And this was a very important conversation for me. And, our body tells us what's wrong. And my body said, full stop. And what I could say before that was, I was working really hard. I would, be in the clinic till 8 o'clock at night and then come home and the phone would ring. And I was traveling all over the world teaching advanced homeopathy and so on and so forth. And so I was really busy, and my body said, stop. And I knew that I had to stop, which is why I moved from Bombay to Auroville, because I knew that if I had to get well, I had to be an obedient servant of my body and listen. And so I moved into nature and I started observing nature. And when I observed nature, I realized that animals in nature know how to be well. Because I live, in a little cottage on the beach, And when the very day I moved into my house, a cat moved in with me. And I started observing the cat, and I saw that when the cat was unwell, it would stop eating, or it would just eat blades of grass, which is fiber, to clean its body out. So cats knew how to heal, and how come humans don't?
In fact, on this, in fact, we have a few dogs in our ashram, and some of them are very close to me. So one of the dogs where she also got a little like paralyzed sort of thing, you know. She couldn't move absolutely, and one was bitten by some other dog, and also they couldn't move at all. So what she did, and at that time I didn't understand, but I understood after 3 or 4 days, she just went and lie down on the mud. You know, normally she would lie down next to where I sleep and in the mat and all. She didn't move from the mud for 4 days. So then I connected the earth is healing, just like how we do have our earth baths and mud baths. So that's how she healed herself. And then now I see it on a regular, like whenever they're sleeping on the mud, okay, something's wrong with you and you're healing yourself, you know, that way. So what you said just now about the cat was absolutely same. Yeah, continue. Because this autoimmune disease, I have heard of quite a few people who say that, what can I do? It is autoimmune. You know, then they start passing the buck. What can I do? I'm helpless. So I want you to just clear that part, because it'll help a lot of people. Yeah,
True. So,
that you can heal yourself if you really. Yeah.
actually, one of the causes that we're getting diseases is because we're eating and living not the way we've been designed to. So, in my medical textbooks, the cause of autoimmune disease, the one I had, was written. Now, when I became a doctor, there were not so many autoimmune diseases that were described. Today, there are more than 100. Okay, so autoimmune diseases have been multiplying, but I had read about Guillain-Barré, which I got, and the causes of Guillain-Barré at that time, already written in the textbook, were eating chicken and vaccinations. Now,
What is
truly,
Priya Bare? But I didn't get.
was the autoimmune disease which I got.
Okay, okay.
So, truly, autoimmune disease is caused by foreign proteins. And vaccinations are foreign proteins, and animal products are foreign proteins to our body. Because a true omnivore can pounce on its prey, tear it apart, and eat it raw. But we cannot even consume milk raw, we'll get disease. It's not our food. So when we consume foods which are not suitable to our body, when we consume foreign proteins, we produce antibodies against those proteins. And if those proteins are like our own cells, then we can destroy our own cells through those antibodies. That's the concept of autoimmune disease. And that's why if we get an autoimmune disease, we can stop the production of antibodies by stopping allowing foreign proteins to enter our body, which means we have to go back to the diet that God designed for us, which is fruits and vegetables and beans and seeds. The things that we could eat raw, because remember one thing, every animal on the planet eats its food raw. Now, at Sharan, we don't expect everyone to eat raw. We request everyone to go on a completely plant-based diet, whole foods, because the maximum nutrition is just under the skin. And we are the only species that refine our food so that it becomes more like baby food. It's more addictive. Sugar is addictive, oil is addictive, white rice and white flour are addictive. And so we refine foods to make them more addictive, but we don't get nutrients from them. And nutrients are the spare parts for healing. And so if we change our diet to a plant-based, whole food and organic foods, we are the only species that sprays our food with poison so that other animals don't eat it. And then we eat it. So what's that, right? So we should eat whole, plant-based and organic. And if we change our diet to the diet that nature meant for us, automatically we'll be well, and automatically diseases reverse. Now, I'm a doctor, so I do all my healing scientifically. So I do reports in the beginning, reports at the end, help people get off medicines in between. But we
Yeah,
get
yeah,
better.
that will make a huge difference because people want that science in everything. So if you do it in a scientific way, pre and post, even I heard about even Dr. Pramod Tripathi also, we met him. So, uh, so he also does this pre and post. And sometime I said, yeah, we don't do so much on this, but on the stress level, Guruji has taught us in SSY a lot. So on that also I'm going to plan to do pre and post some basic tests so it helps people to this thing. Yeah, it's wonderful what you've shared. Yeah, continue please.
So basically, when I started understanding all this, I started telling my patients about it, and I was so enthusiastic. And my patients were like normal people. They would listen to me, they would get very enthusiastic, but they didn't change. And the reason they didn't change is because for every human being, it's difficult to change. It's difficult to change our place at the table. It's difficult for us to change our bed. It's difficult for us to change our home, leave alone our food, which is, what we've been brought up with right from the beginning. So it's difficult to change jobs, country, anything, right? We are creatures of habit. So, so I realized that patients didn't really want to change. But I had some patients who had one foot in the grave. They were willing to do anything I told them, and they got well. Nobody could heal them, but they got well by making changes in accordance to nature's laws. And I documented those cases on video and everything so that other people could see. And I started doing seminars, 1 day workshops, where I would serve breakfast, lunch, and snacks in the evening so that people could see how their body felt with 1 day of eating healthy food. And my food was so good that many people came to the workshop because of the food and not because of the workshop itself, just
Absolutely.
because the food was so good. So, what I want to say is that our food is not a deprivation, it's actually an inspiration, you know. And once you eat, it's sort of like, going in a Mercedes. If you go in a Mercedes, then after a while, you don't want to go in a rickshaw. So it's like when you go on the real high quality food, after a while, you don't even look at what's going around you, because it doesn't even look like food anymore, you know.
Beautiful.
All those packages hanging in supermarkets that are
Yeah.
polluting the environment. I mean, it doesn't even look like food to me. So, so I started doing these workshops, and somebody invited me to do a 21-day retreat. And we kind of did it with sponsors and everything, and did the tests at the beginning and tests at the end, and reducing the medications. And that's where I really learned the healing power of the body, which was so amazing. And that retreat was only for diabetics. And the reason we chose diabetics is because a diabetic can see the results right away with a glucometer. You can see the results day by day. You don't need to go for expensive tests or anything. So diabetes and high blood pressure are some things that we can monitor at home, and that's why I started out with diabetes and high blood pressure, because I didn't have a center where, people could stay and see the results. But now I'm treating a lot more cases of what people consider incurable, autoimmune diseases and chronic kidney disease and cancers. And I don't want to give the impression that all cases of cancers can be reversed, not at all. Not even all cases of autoimmune disease can be reversed. But every single patient, or rather, let me put it, every single person on this planet can become healthier by eating and living the way we were designed to. And, whole food, plant based, organic is just one step towards that. Because the next step would be raw, completely raw, right? In fact, we even allow grains like wheat and rice. We just say whole wheat and whole rice. But truly, wheat and rice are not our foods. Like if you see green fields of wheat and rice, nobody salivates by seeing green fields of wheat and rice because we can't eat it raw, right? So this is cow food that we're eating today. So once we realize that it's not our food, and once we start getting on a healthier diet, then grains kind of drop off. And then we are on a grainless diet. And then once we start eating more raw foods, the cooked foods kind of drop off. And I have to say, I eat mostly at home, and my cylinder lasts me a year. That just
Oh.
happens. And I always cook my own food because I'm not cooking. I use my blender and I use my knife, and that's it. So then we get onto more raw, and then Manoj ji, elitome, and
Yeah,
elitome is completely living on light.
yeah,
And living on light means taking the energy of the sun or of the environment. And each stage is a spiritual process where if you see
absolutely.
the people at those levels, you can see that they're at a different level altogether. So I have to say
Right.
I'm on level 1 and I have a long way to go, but I'm here right now because my life purpose is to help people prevent and reverse diseases through food, and
Yeah.
I
So,
know that.
like Ellie Tom,
Yeah,
like Ellie Tom, he says, I mean, he had given us a chart when we had a 3-day retreat with him, and we meet him regularly through Anju. So he started with, of course, from non-veg to veg, and from veg to vegan, and from vegan to raw, and from raw to juices, and juices to water, and water to, gradually he gave this, and every month he would go to the next step, or 2 months like that. So it's a gradual process, but
yes.
yeah, we got to eat, or I say eat minimum and eat as light as possible. That's like a very basic thumb rule. And then, of course, you go into further, as you're saying.
Yeah, and
Yes.
so I don't even say eat as light as possible, truly, because I
Mm.
think that if you force yourself to do
Yeah.
something, then the opposite occurs
Yes,
at
absolutely.
some point. So I say listen to your body and eat according to whatever your body asks for. So personally, I don't do heavy fasts and this and that, but I believe that in nature, animals are adaptive and so can we be. So we don't have to eat every meal at every meal time because our body will tell us when to eat and when not to eat. And if you're busy and you don't eat, that also works. So, for example, when someone gets fever, the body tells us how to heal. Now, truly, the body produces fever. The body raises the temperature so that the pathogen cannot multiply. Just as we boil water so as to kill the pathogens in the water. And so when we get fever, if we take a paracetamol, that's the first wrong step. But when we get fever, our body tells us what to do. And our body tells us, go to sleep and don't eat. And the reason it says don't eat is because if we don't have to spend energy in digesting, if our body doesn't have to digest, then our body can take the time to heal. So the body says, go to bed, don't disturb me, don't eat anything, and I will heal. And everyone wakes up with less fever the next morning, right?
Absolutely. Yeah.
So that's how things work. That
In
if we
fact, a couple of months back, I got fever, and the body just told me like we have a terrace flat. So I actually slept for 2 days in the sun. Morning 3 hours, means 9 to 12 in the sun, and then again 2 to 5 in the sun. I got in the sun, sweating, but feeling wonderful because after the sweat you were much more energetic. Then again, and 2 or 3 days it lasted, and just slept in the sun. And I know many people who did the same. They just recovered just sleeping in the sun that way.
right. So, all we have to do is listen to our body and we will heal like the animals, right? So there is time for fasting and there's time for not fasting. And the truth is, health is adaptability. That whether it's cold or hot or, there's more food or less food, your body is capable of adapting. And but when we're unhealthy, the body is not capable of adapting, right? So health is adaptability. So I started teaching my patients how to heal. And as I told you, the ones with one foot in the grave, they were getting better fast, right? So I started understanding what are the things that come in the way. And the biggest thing that comes in the way is the fear of deprivation. Like, hey, I've had milk all my life, so how will I do without curds? How will I do without tea? How will I do without those desserts? What about my ice cream? How can I live without milk? So I started making alternatives. And now, you can even go to the market and buy alternatives for all kinds of dairy, all kinds of meats, right? So you don't need to kill or deprive an animal in order to satisfy yourself. And that is a huge win because it's win-win. Win-win is important.
Beautiful. In fact, we went to this Sunday market. Anju had taken us somewhere in Bandstand, wherever, around Kurla, somewhere. So there they sell all these vegan ice creams, vegan this, vegan that, that way. So you can speak a little more on that. Because many people now they'll soon ask questions, and in SSY, I mean, whatever we learned through Guruji is that we would just go on an experiment for again those 14 to 21 days on raw food, and people would get healed from this diabetes and blood pressure and hypertension, all this. And the funny part is they would get healed, and then after few couple of years they get it back also, so they bring it back because then we lose out on the touch of when we came. Like SSY was not only about food, it was about food, pranayam, meditation, breaking the beliefs, as well as Anandmay Kosh. That means all the five koshas mixed. So that's why it is so powerful that in 14 or 21 days you get cured or healed by this. But then to maintain it, then that's where people don't be in touch regularly. Then they lose to maintain it, and then it starts coming back on them. So anything we start, I tell people that if it works well for you, then continue it and continue it. Like ever since I met Ali Tom, so once 3 years has been past, so he tells a pranic day. You have a pranic day. That means a pranic day means he doesn't say ideally nirjala. That means without water. If not, at least with water. If not, with fruits. If not, with juices. If not, with raw food. If not, even if you're having 3 meals a day, make it 2 meals a day. If you're having 2 meals a day, make it one. So he says go gradually, but go to the next step. So everyone, I always tell them that choose one day where you go to the pranic diet. Pranic diet means reduce at least one thing of what you are used to, and then check, and then you feel better. So normally I keep it on Saturdays. Today is my that day actually. Okay, so
Today's
it
a very
feels.
special day because today is Earth Day.
Is
And
it?
Yes, today is Earth Day celebrated all over the world. And do you know that we are 8 billion on the planet almost today? And 80 billion land animals are slaughtered every year for food
Every
by
year.
our 8 billion. 80 billion.
Wow.
So, the number of animals that we have raised for food are taking up land, water, food. The food which humans could have eaten are going to feed animals so that they can feed humans,
Wow.
which means higher on the food chain. So, for example, it takes 12 kilos of grain to produce a liter of milk if you consider the life of a cow.
12 liters of, what is it? 12?
12 kilos of grain to produce
Grain.
1 liter of milk if you consider the life of a cow. Because the cow has to, get pregnant, deliver, and then she can give milk, right? So if you consider the whole lifespan of a cow, then it takes 12 kilos of grain to produce 1 liter of milk. Now, those 12 kilos of grain could have been eaten by somebody. In fact, with a handful of soybeans, you can make 1 liter of milk, which could be even more nutritious than cow's milk. So, when you eat higher on the food chain, you're producing land pollution, water pollution, air pollution. And, because all these animals produce greenhouse gases. And if you go even past poultry, you can smell the ammonia, you know. So we are destroying our planet by eating animals because they need land. So we are destroying biodiversity. We are cutting down forests to make grazing grounds. We are losing water. We are doing this and we're killing ourselves in the bargain. So if we could shift, we are not shifting just for us, we're shifting for the entire planet. And I just think how lucky I am to be here today with you on such a special day as Earth Day.
Wow, I didn't know that. That was good. Yeah. There's one movie, Earth, that it's in Netflix or one of those, but it's beautiful that when we walk barefoot, we can take the energy from the earth. And then I say that when you walk barefoot, you can take the energy. Then when we are having bath, you take the energy from water. When we are looking at the sun or a candle or this thing, you take the energy from fire or heat. Or you can take the energy from the wind itself, or just by looking up at the sky. So all the panch tattva, Prithvi, Jal, Agni, Vayu, Akash, you can take it. It's all on our intention. Like if we intend to take it, and that's what I learned from Eli Tom, how he takes the energy like this. So it's just intending, and then it starts coming. Of course, if we change our diet, it helps, enhances it that much more, that way.
So in my case, because I'm a doctor, people often will delay the change till it's getting too late, till somebody says that you cannot get cured, right? Then they come. And that sometimes is too late even for us because we are not creating miracles, right? We are only helping you to allow your body to heal itself. I see one question here. May I take it? People in Bhutan are non-veg and lifespan of them are more than the rest of the world. Can you elaborate on it? So I wouldn't say that it's only food. I would say that nutrition, exercise, water, sunshine, fresh air, an attitude of gratitude, and everything goes together, right? So whatever we're doing goes together. But I do want to say one thing very special about Bhutan, that their whole culture is happiness. So they don't, so money is not a part of their culture as much as happiness. And also they are organic. That means they are not spraying their food with poison in order to gain more money. So there's a lot in Bhutan that's going on. Personally, I haven't been there, and I'm probably going to go there in September this year, because there's the Himalayan Vegan Conference in Nepal and Bhutan, which I've been invited to speak at. I'm looking forward to that. So, but what I understand from Bhutan is that they are also one of the very few, if I don't know if there's another one, which is carbon positive country. That means they are not creating more greenhouse gases. Their whole thing is about growing forests and not destroying nature. Whereas if you see right now, our culture is building cities and theirs is building forests. So literally they have this in their 5-year plans by the government. There's a very good TED talk about Bhutan that, you
In
know.
fact, in the happiness index, Bhutan comes number one. At least a few years back, it was number one. Happiness index is number one. So if they are happy people, then everything is like amrut, turns into amrut, that way.
But truly, this question is a little bit like saying my grandfather smoked was, till he died. He died and he lived 100 years. So what's wrong with smoking? And the truth is that some people get away with one thing, but that doesn't mean it's something good. So, what we have to think is, what did God intend for us to consume? And like true omnivores, if we can't pounce on the prey and tear it apart and eat it raw, and we don't have a digestive system suitable to eating those animals, and if we can get autoimmune diseases and cancers by eating certain things, then we should wake up. So that's my thought about it.
So, what we say is basically, uh, I mean, I myself, I have been from Punjab. Okay, so I used to have 3 glasses of milk. That was morning, afternoon, evening. This was a standard diet of mine for 25 years. Still, I did SSY, and of course, I had lots of cold and cough. But those medicines were there, and every time I had a headache, I was given a Saridon, and I happily take it, and it's okay. It's like that. So I had all the medicines prior to that, and after SSY, a new understanding happened. So I stopped milk for about, I think, 15 years, more than that also. And then somewhere down the line, someone again told that don't stop suddenly something like this so drastically. So I restarted and have it once a week or whatever, something like that. So this happens to many people. In fact, one of our teachers, close friend teacher, that he is very very staunch follower of SSY himself. So he had stopped everything for all smell, everything, raw food to the P. Means he followed the T to the T till he got some knee block. And I met him a couple of weeks back. So I said, "What? Let's climb down the stairs." And he said, "No, no. The doctor told me not to climb down the stairs." I said, "Why?" And he said, "Because of this. So I have restarted and I have stopped now raw food. This was 2 weeks back. I have stopped raw food and I'm eating normal meals. I've yet to interact with him in detail." I said, "We'll speak because."
Okay, so I can tell you why these things happen,
Okay.
because there are two vitamins that we cannot get in normal life. Of course, we could, nature intended us to get them, but the way we are living today in our artificial society, we can't get them. And those are vitamin B12 and vitamin D. Now, vitamin B12 is only produced
D
by
means D3 you're talking about? D3 or
D.
any other D?
Yeah, D.
Just
D2 and D3, they can be converted interchangeably in our body. We require to use D3, but D2 can be converted into D3. So actually, vitamin D is produced by the cells on our skin through the action of the sun on the skin. But it cannot happen in our cities in India because there's something between the sun and our skin, which is pollution. So if there's anything between the sun and the skin, which could be windows or clothes or even sunscreen or whatever, you will not produce enough vitamin D, which means almost every Indian, except the ones who live in the villages, have vitamin D deficiency. So this can be a problem. And the other problem is vitamin B12, which is only produced by bacteria. And meat and milk are full of bacteria because they're decaying substances. Like if you leave meat and milk outside, they'll spoil. But if you leave carrots and apples and oranges outside, they will last for a few days because they are kept intact by their skin. You know, it keeps the bacteria away. So now, normally we would have drunk water from the river or the stream or the pond, and we would have got our B12. But we aren't getting B12 today because of zero B water, chlorinated water, but also because of mobile phones, mobile phone towers, and alcohol, which can destroy B12. So this electromagnetic frequency destroys B12. And that's why some people, when they're not taking animal products all the time, if they suddenly take it, they can get B12. And so they feel better for temporarily. But putting milk in your body occasionally is like putting diesel in a car that runs on petrol occasionally. It's not a long-term solution. Okay. I have some other questions here. Should I go on to them?
Yeah, sure, sure.
So there's Vidya Rane. She said, give some concrete food item which will make us healthy and vegan. And please give tips to control blood pressure and acidity. Okay. So, you know, the concrete food items that we should eat are the foods that nature has given us that we could potentially eat raw. And of course, if you eat them raw, you get even more nutrients, and nutrients are the spare parts for healing. Now, if you want to get rid of high blood pressure, you have to understand what is the cause of high blood pressure. And the number one cause of high blood pressure is blocking the arteries, and the arteries are blocked with fat. And so you have to remove the fat from your diet, which are the refined products like oil, ghee, and butter, and increase the fiber, which helps to remove the fat blocking the arteries. But of course, high blood pressure can also be caused by stress. And so we have to work on stress as well. And I gave you one tip of how you can reduce stress substantially by not putting it in your body through animal products. And acidity, our stomach produces acid in order to digest protein. If you consume excess protein, your stomach has to produce excess acid. And if you stop consuming proteins which you're not meant to consume, acidity will often, like 99%, become a thing of the past. Rajiv Shah has asked, after a heart attack 1 year back, now I'm diagnosed as a diabetic. How to reverse it? Okay, look, I have to say that I'm not that much of a magician that I can tell you and it'll happen. But, you know, we do consultations and our consultations are an hour long. And I've written a book which is 300 pages long on how to reverse diabetes. So it's a process of learning. And once you learn, you can reverse. I do want to say that one of the reasons that we have so many cooking classes and really simple ones, so many cooking classes, because people feel they be deprived. And we just want people to know that it's so easy not to be deprived because you can make your own ice creams and your own cheeses and you can't be deprived of anything. And it's simple. It's so simple that it takes more time to go and buy milk and heat it than it is to make the alternatives. I'm seeing this Satishwari's question. Is vegan food costly, especially to get proteins and vitamins? Milk and eggs are highly recommended by general physicians to common middle income people. Can you clarify? The truth is that fruits and vegetables are usually cheaper than animal products, but in some countries, including India, animal products are subsidized. For example, milk and eggs are subsidized. And so they don't reflect the true cost of producing them and definitely don't reflect the cost on the environment of producing them. And therefore, we really need to think about it. But in general, if you get your proteins from dals, it's cheap. And greens are the source of protein for green leafy vegetables, are the source of protein for horses and elephants and cows. I mean, if you have greens every day, you've already got your proteins. In fact, only plants can produce protein in this world. Whatever protein we eat from animals is secondary protein, which has come from plants, because animals also need protein just like we do, right? And nature is not so stupid that we'll be deprived of protein if we eat what we were meant to eat in nature. So, in fact, if I ask a question, who knows somebody with protein deficiency? Honestly, today we are seeing diseases of protein excess. And I saw some answers, and the answers were like weakness and muscles weak and things like that. And the reason we're thinking that is because the people who are promoting the proteins the most are the gym instructors. But look, think about it yourself. If you eat lots of fruit, how do you feel after that fruit meal? Energetic, right? But if you eat a meal full of paneer or cheese or non-veg, I'm sure none of you are non-veg, but in case you were in the past, if you eat a meal full of animal products, do you feel energetic? In fact, it's the opposite. So why do we feel less energetic? Because protein is not the food for energy. What is the food for energy? We all knew in the past: glucose, sugar, carbohydrates. We need carbohydrates for energy, right? So if our energy is less, we need carbohydrates. Protein is a food for growth and repair. Many doctors get this wrong. For example, protein is a food for growth. Cancer is a growth. Protein powder should never be given to cancer patients, but they are being given to cancer patients by doctors. So many doctors get this wrong. And the reason doctors get it wrong is because there's no topic of nutrition in the medical syllabus. So doctors don't get a nutritional education. They get an education of how to prescribe medicines. And truly, the pharmaceutical companies are the ones writing the books. I mean, the whole world is running on commercialism these days, right?
What do you have to say about keto diet? Because that's
Keto
all.
diet started with
Or you can explain 2 minutes on keto also, because many people will not know about the keto also.
so what keto diet is that don't eat any carbohydrates, just eat protein and fat. Because animal protein comes with fat. So you can eat protein, you can eat fat, don't eat carbohydrates. Anybody who's tried this diet realizes that it's very heavy. You feel drowsy all the time. Because of the fat, you get high blood pressure. Because of actually, the real cause of diabetes is also fat. And the person who started keto diet, and I'm just thinking of his name right now and losing it, but it'll come back to me. He died of chronic kidney disease after getting diabetes and hypertension, but he actually died overweight because we are building up that fat. So personally, I don't think much of keto diet. And honestly, people who are on real keto diet will end up with constipation. So if they don't burst because of constipation, they'll get diabetes and hypertension. What can I say? I'm treating plenty of them.
Okay, good, good.
I see this other question, ma'am, from Rinky. Ma'am, I'm suffering from PCOD. And how do I deal with it and how do I reverse it? And that's not an uncommon question, because today we have a lot of hormonal problems like diabetes and hypertension, hypothyroidism, and PCOD and infertility. India was a country of overfertility, and now we have infertility clinics everywhere. And the prostate enlargement and breast cancer and prostate cancer are the most common cancers. So why are we getting so many hormonal problems? And not to forget that diabetes is a hormonal problem because insulin is a hormone. And the main reason we get hormonal problems is because all our hormones are orchestrated by the pituitary gland, a gland at the back of our brain. And if one hormone goes out of balance, so do others. By the way, vitamin D is a hormone as well. Now, why are these hormones going out of balance? Number one, hormones themselves. We are taking hormones in the form of steroids, and we're taking hormones in the form of, say, birth control pills and so on. But we're taking hormones every day in our diet through dairy and meat and eggs. All animal products are full of hormones. So that's the number one reason. Number two reason is chemicals, are hormone disruptors. Where do the chemicals come from? Organic food, non-organic food, or packaged food, of course, or eating out, but also toothpaste is a bunch of chemicals. Soaps, shampoos, everything that we put on our body, perfumes, deodorants, hand sanitizers, these are chemicals that are absorbed from our skin within 26 seconds. And then we're breathing in chemicals like agarbatti and air fresheners and window cleaners and toilet cleaners and phenyls and whatever else, pest control and whatever people are using. So these are the major causes of hormonal disruption, which we need to change. Today, young kids are getting hormonal problems. Anubha has asked, ma'am, do you favor Amway products? As they say, it is plant-based protein. No. See, if I think about it, I always say, is this something that God has designed for us or man has created? Amway products is something that man has created. Just like oil and sugar is something that man has created. Sugar cane is God created or nature created. So we need to go to natural things, not packaged just because they're plant-based. And yeah, Vinita, thank you for the Atkins word. Yes, it was Atkins who died of diabetes and high blood pressure. Atkins was the founder of the keto diet. It was also called Atkins diet.
Yeah. So Dr. Nandita ji, I'll read for you.
Yes.
Nilesh has put in the chat box that, ma'am, what do you suggest for iron deficiency? And his mom is suffering from diarrhea since 1 month. She can't take green leafy vegetables. Please guide.
Okay. So for iron deficiency, every doctor knows that milk prevents the absorption of iron. This is why India as a country has a high rate of anemia, because we are one of the countries with a large consumption of dairy. You know, we have dairy in everything. Just because with so many people are vegetarian, it's dairy, 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 right? So for example, if you look at Asia, the Indian subcontinent consumed dairy, but the rest of Asia up to 50 years ago or even 30 years ago never consumed dairy. And therefore, there's no dairy in Chinese food, Japanese food, Thai food, Malaysian food, Burmese food, even Sri Lankan food. Dairy was not their traditional food. So it's easy to understand what were the diseases caused by dairy, because we have countries very close to us that never consume dairy. Okay, so milk prevents the absorption of iron. Now, if someone has diarrhea, we have to understand what is the cause of diarrhea. That means, is it an autoimmune disease? Like, is it Crohn's disease? Is it ulcerative colitis or IBS? Or what is the cause of this disease? And then remove the cause. If we remove the cause, then if the intestines heal, when they heal, she will be able to digest the foods that are natural for us, as in green leafy vegetables.
There's a little confusion with regards to dry fruits. So if you could share with us, because at some places they say that dry fruits are good, at some places they say they build up cholesterol because it has got oil content in them. So if you could please guide on that, whether dry fruits are good for the body, and if yes, then which ones to have, which ones to avoid. Thank you.
Okay, so let's define dry fruits, right? There are dried fruits, which are like anjeer and raisins and dates, and these are really dry fruits, okay? But then there are nuts, like walnuts and pistachio and almonds, and we call them dry fruits, but they're actually nuts, okay? So let's separate them. Now, the dried fruits is our natural food. We can eat as much as we like, including a diabetic can eat as much as they like of true dried fruits. But nuts come in hard shells. And imagine if we lived in nature like we were meant to. And if you're sitting under a walnut tree and you have all these walnuts on the ground, and many people these days haven't even seen walnuts in the shell because they're sold in the supermarket in plastic bags, shell. But if you've seen the shell, then you know that it's hard to open if you're in nature and you don't have tools. That means it's not something that was designed by nature for us, because we can't get in it. Imagine if you were sitting under a walnut tree and you had to open the walnut, you would need a stone, and you would not eat more than 2, 3, 4, 5, maximum 10 walnuts in a day. Now, almonds are more difficult to open, cashews are even more difficult to open, and pistachios cannot be opened without heating. Same with cashews, largely. So these are not our foods by nature, even if they're plant-based. Now, coming to the question of cholesterol, cholesterol is only made by animals. Cholesterol is a sterol. We are animals. We produce cholesterol and we need cholesterol. And there are many people these days who are taking medicines for cholesterol to bring down cholesterol, but we need cholesterol because cholesterol is required by the brain, and if your cholesterol is too low, it's a problem. However, there is no cholesterol in plants. There's no cholesterol in cashews and there's no cholesterol in coconut. And therefore, you cannot get high cholesterol by eating cashews and coconut. But you can get high cholesterol by eating all animal products from dairy to meat and fish. Okay? Does that answer the question?
Yes, thank you very much.
Yeah, I know you don't even recommend eating rice and wheat and all. Okay. But still, there's a lot of confusion going on between somebody who says brown rice, unpolished rice is good nutrient. Yes, that part, okay. But then there's another school which says, it's very difficult to digest brown rice. So, what's the truth about this?
Okay. So, our school of reference should always be nature, in my opinion, right? Now, in nature, rice would not be our food. And I do have to say that I am not rice free because I'm advocating whole and plant based. At the same time, if I were treating a case of cancer, I may not allow rice because there's no time. Then we have to get on the highway. So it depends on the case, but in general, rice is not our food. However, if we do want to eat rice, we definitely should not polish it, take out all the minerals, vitamins, and fiber, and eat only plain carbohydrates. Right? Now, how will you know this? Because if you eat, have you ever eaten brown rice?
Yeah, I have.
Okay. So, how much brown rice do you eat compared to white rice?
Very less.
Very less,
Very
very
less,
less.
right? Why?
One
Why
half,
does
I
the
think.
body eat less? Because there's more nutrients. It's not only that you'll eat less, but you'll eat less and feel full longer.
Yes, yes.
Yeah.
And that is because there are more nutrients. We should always eat for high nutrients.